You're listening to the Fibromyalgia podcast with Tami Stackelhouse, episode 43. Welcome to the Fibromyalgia podcast. I'm your coach, Tami Stackelhouse, and today I'm going to share with you the top 11 things that you need in order to get better. And I think some of those are actually going to surprise you a little bit. Before we dive into today's topic, as usual, I have this week's listener shout out and a couple of quick announcements for you. So our listener shout out for this week is actually a review that was posted on Apple Podcasts last week. It's titled Figuring It Out. She says, I was diagnosed when I was 23. I'm now 27. For years, I've been fighting the diagnosis. I had it under control for years, and now I'm starting to have more and more flare-ups and more fatigue. Through this podcast, I am now starting to understand and accept my diagnosis. I now want to know as much as I can about this thing that I have. Thank you for helping me through this process and helping me understand and accept this. I am now trying to figure out how to help myself and my boyfriend understand this diagnosis and live our best lives. Thank you so much for sharing this on iTunes. I love seeing reviews like this. This really is the kind of thing that keeps me going. So I love to see this. So thank you so much for sharing. And I think today's episode is really going to be helpful in giving you an idea of some of the things that it's actually going to take for you to get better. I mean, we don't just want to live the best life that you can have, knowing that it will only be so good, right? Like, because we have fibromyalgia, there's a limit on how awesome life can be. And that's not true. You actually can have a great life. You can feel better. And that is what this podcast is all about. So in today's episode, I'm going to dive a little bit deeper into what it takes to actually do that for real. Of course, as I always say, the amount that each person can improve, of course, is different, depending on the resources that you have, the other diagnoses you may have, how long you've been sick, how severe your illness is. All of these things are factors in how much better you can get. But I do believe every single person listening can find a way to improve. So again, thank you so much for your review on Apple Podcasts, and I'm so thrilled that you are finding help in the podcast. So our announcements for this week, I just have a couple of quick things. Next week's episode, I'm actually going to be talking about how to design the life that you want to live. There is an exercise that I've been doing with my clients almost as long as I've been a coach, which has been 11 years now, and I call it the Dream Week. And it's really just a way to think about what helps your body feel the best, what kind of energy you have, and making choices about how you want to spend that time and energy. So we're actually going to be doing that next week next episode, in episode 43. So I hope you come back for that. I also wanted to remind you guys, I mentioned this in our last episode, our next Stories of Hope and Healing live event will be happening on August 29th. That will be at 1 o'clock Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. And this is really for the people who are graduating from my training programs. The reason I'm inviting all of you to come, and I'll have more details on this in the show notes, but the main reason I'm inviting you to come is that our graduates are going to be sharing their stories of hope and healing. So I want you to come so that you can hear their stories. It's really important for us to fuel ourselves with hope, with other stories of people who have gotten better, because it helps us believe that we can do it too. So I hope you'll come. I hope you'll hear the things that they've done to feel better. They're going to be sharing some of that. They're going to be sharing their experiences and really help us celebrate their graduation from the training program and also celebrate their feeling better. So again, that's August 29th, 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. This is an online virtual event. It will also be recorded. To sign up to attend or to get the recording, go to ifcigraduation.com. That's IFCI, like International Fibromyalgia Coaching Institute, graduation.com. And we'll have that in the show notes. Along with that, I am actually going to be starting the next Fibromyalgia Advisor training program. So the program these gals are graduating from, I'm going to be starting a new class next month. The special thing about this, and I'll have more info at the end of this episode, so I don't take up all the time at the beginning here, but the main thing about this class is going to be a little bit different is I am going to be teaching it live. There are several things I'm updating the program, doing some training on some new topics, updating the material, and I am actually going to be teaching it live this next time. So more details at the end of this episode. Of course, you can always go to the show notes for today's episode to get more details. That's fibromyalgiapodcast.com/43. Today is episode 43, and you'll have information on that graduation. You'll also have information on the new training program, all the details from this week's episode. All right. So you guys ready to learn what it takes to feel better? So when I was getting ready to record this episode, one of the things that I did, because I get this question all of the time, I literally get emails like this every week from people saying, how do I feel better? What do I need to do to feel better? And so in preparing for today's episode, I thought about you and I sitting down, having a consultation, and you asking me that question. And how would I answer you if we were sitting there face to face having a conversation? I realize, we're having a conversation now. Of course, I can't hear your side of the conversation, but it's really no different. So sometimes it helps me to put myself in that situation and think about what I would say to you if you and I were face to face. And I came up with these 11 things. You will find as I go through this that it may not be what you expected to hear. And in many ways, what each of us has to do to feel better in terms of healing our bodies is very, very unique. You might have allergies I don't have. You might have other conditions that I don't have. I might have things that you don't have. So when it comes to the part of, remember, there's the 3 legs of the stool, right? In healing your fibromyalgia, and one of them is fixing the things that are actually going wrong in your body. Those things are going to be different for everybody, and what you have to do to fix them is different for everybody. Most doctors and providers focus on that leg of the stool. They focus on what you have to fix in your body. And that is a very important piece, but that's a very difficult piece for you to fix on your own. As you and I are sitting here talking, that is something that's a little bit harder to do. Very important, focused on most, but also one of the harder things to do. One of the other legs of the stool is your lifestyle. So that's things like what you eat, your sleep habits, all of that kind of stuff, how you move, all of that, your self-care. And then the third leg of the stool, while we're talking about it, is your mindset. Now, the lifestyle piece, again, that is going to be the same in some areas, but also different in other areas. Some of you can go out and exercise and have no problem. Others of you just can't. Some of you are morning people, some of you are not. So again, lifestyle is going to be pretty varied. The most important piece, and the piece that's going to unlock everything for you, is that third leg of the stool, the mindset. And that's a lot of the things I'm going to be talking about today. Not all of it, but a lot of it. So here are the 11 things that you are going to need to do, to have, to be in order to get better. Number 1, you are going to have an expert to guide you. If you knew how to get better on your own, you probably would have done it by now. You need somebody who knows more than you do, who knows fibromyalgia, who can help you troubleshoot when things don't go the way you expected, who can help you strategize, figure out new ways of doing things. You need somebody who really understands fibromyalgia and has been where you want to go. It's really difficult to have somebody help you when they've never been there. Have you ever tried getting directions someplace from somebody who's never been there, right? They're looking at the map just like you are, and they tell you things like, go 2 miles down the road, and it looks like you need to turn east. And you're like, okay. But somebody who's been there might say, oh yeah, you just go down there. There's a school on the right. Just take a right after the school and go down a little bit farther. You'll see the sign on this side of the road. It's a whole different deal when you're getting directions from somebody who's been where you want to go. That's what you need to do with your fibromyalgia as well. So you need an expert to guide you. You can learn more about this particular step in episodes 8 and 9 of this podcast. You'll find those at fibromyalgiapodcast.com/8 and fibromyalgiapodcast.com/9, where we talk about the science behind having a guide or a coach to help you along the way. This, of course, doesn't have to be a coach. I do think that a person who is looking for the quickest, fastest way possible to feel better, a coach is honestly your best bet. But really what you need in this position is somebody who is an expert in fibromyalgia, somebody who's been where you want to be, so somebody who, has gotten better, and somebody who has the time and the capacity to be able to strategize with you, troubleshoot with you, help you figure out what's working, what's not working, and really be able to spend time with you. So this often is not your doctor. But that leads me to number 2 on the list, which is you've got to have a good doctor. Now, when I talk about having a good doctor, this is not the same as saying you need a fibromyalgia expert. What we talked about in number 1 was that fibromyalgia expert. Number 2, when it comes to having a good doctor, what I'm talking about here is basic human decency. You need a doctor who's going to listen to you, really listen to you, listen to your concerns, listen to the things that you think about your own body, your own intuition. You need somebody who's going to believe what you say, believing that you have these symptoms or have this pain or that it is as bad as you think it is. You also need somebody who is going to really be your partner in this, who is not going to be the expert in the room, even if they don't actually know that much about fibromyalgia, but somebody who's more interested in being the doctor than being your partner in your healthcare journey. So finding a good doctor, we do have to have, because there are tests that need to be run, medications that might need to be prescribed. Working with a coach, we can't diagnose, we can't treat, we can't prescribe. We can know a lot about fibromyalgia, but we also need a doctor to partner with that can then run those tests and write those prescriptions and, all of that kind of stuff. So you need both. I also want to make it super clear that, and I've said this multiple times on the podcast, but doctors are not taught how to treat fibromyalgia in medical school. They are just not. With my experience, when I go and I speak to medical students, most of the time, that 1 hour that I am there with them is often the only exposure they have to fibromyalgia. Maybe about half the time or so, they've also had a second class that's an hour long that's teaching them about fibromyalgia. But anybody listening to this podcast knows that there is so much more about fibromyalgia, and you can't get what you need in an hour. So please do not confuse number 1 and number 2 on my list here. The expert and having a good doctor are almost always not the same person. I can literally count on my 2 hands here how many true fibromyalgia expert physicians there are in the world. So we're not talking about the same person. I know I'm kind of being a little adamant about that, but I run into so many people who keep looking for a doctor who's a fibromyalgia expert. And the reality is most of you are not living anywhere near one. And so some of you will be able to combine those two, but most of you will not. So number one, you need to have an expert that can guide you. Number two, you need to have a good doctor on your team. Also with number two, I'm just looking at my notes here. You might also want to check out episode 6, which is about the patient's role in their own healthcare. And there's a lot of information in there about looking for a good doctor and your role versus the doctor's role. So you'll find things in that episode as well. All right. Item number 3 on the list. So if you and I are sitting there having a consultation and talking about what you're going to need to feel better, one of the most important things that you need is what is called a beginner's mind. What this means is you need to set aside everything that you know. So if you are sitting there and saying, but I've tried everything, you may need to try it again. There are so many things where maybe your body has changed. Maybe you need to try, say, acupuncture, but with a different acupuncturist. So sometimes the practitioner makes a difference. Maybe your body's in a different place. Maybe, working on other things now will allow this particular modality to work better for you. You also need to forget everything that you thought you knew about fibromyalgia. There is so much we have learned, and particularly if you were diagnosed longer ago. We didn't even have diagnostic criteria written down for fibromyalgia until 1990. That was only 30 years ago. In the grand scheme of things, that's not very long. And I know there's a bunch of you listening right now who may have been diagnosed back in the 80s and the 90s, even the 2000s. And there's just so much that has changed, in terms of what we know helps in the medications and treatment options available, in just our understanding of what is happening in the body. When fibromyalgia was first talked about, when the very first doctor wrote down the tender points and where they were located on a person's body, that was 200 years ago. And it was thought to be a mental illness, right? So much has changed. So cultivate a beginner's mind. Be a student again. Be willing to look at everything with fresh eyes and to let go of that, yes, I know that already, or yes, I've tried that already, and be open to doing everything again and trying everything fresh. That's number 3, cultivating a beginner's mind. Number 4, you have got to make feeling better your priority, your top priority. And I want to be clear that when I say make feeling better your priority, I do not mean the same thing as making health your priority. There are some of you out there who might be avid fitness buffs that actually need to work out less. There might be some of you out there who are following a vegetarian diet because you thought that would help you be healthier, or a keto diet, or whatever it is, low fat, whatever. Maybe you need to eat meat. Maybe you need to eat, more fat. We actually need to do an exploration of what helps your body heal and what helps your body feel the best. And that may be different than conventional health criteria or health advice. Yes, we want you to be healthy. We are, of course, going to be looking at things like your cholesterol numbers and your blood sugar and, all of that kind of stuff to make sure that you're healthy. But what you need to do in a fibromyalgia body to be healthy and to feel your best might be different than what you have done in the past to be healthy or to feel your best. May mean things like maybe you need to temporarily take some medication to help get your pain under control so that then you can go off of that medication. There's just a lot to that. So don't equate feeling better and traditional, be healthy, exercise, eat right, and what that may mean, because you may need to do something different. That kind of goes back to that beginner's mind we were talking about. You also have to make this a priority. There is no way you are going to get better if this is not your priority. You actually need to make getting better your full-time job, at least for a while. When you get to a point where you're there and you are feeling better, then you can, move it. I don't even want to say to the back burner. You can put it down on simmer or something, but you will always be thinking about how you can keep your body happy. Even now with my fibromyalgia in remission, I am still always thinking, what's going to help my body stay nice and happy? Because I like feeling like this. So what's your priority? Making a priority with your finances and how you spend your money. Maybe that means, going to a different doctor or hiring a coach or buying more expensive supplements that actually give your body the nutrition that you need instead of going in your mouth and out the toilet, right? So there are lots of things that making this a priority from your financial standpoint that could mean. You may want to check out episode 40, which is one of our Ask the Coach episodes, where I answer the question, should I go outside of my insurance for fibromyalgia treatment? And this is part of that, making it a priority with your finances. You're not going to get where you need to go if you just only do what's covered by your insurance. It's just not going to happen as much as you would love for it to, as much as I would love for it to. The way things just are in the healthcare industry, it's just not going to happen. You also need to make this a priority in terms of your time, your effort, and the way that you think. I've had several conversations lately about clients who, for whatever reason, are choosing not to make their health a priority, whether they realize it or not. So that could be things like maybe being a little bit lax about taking the medications your doctor has prescribed. Maybe, not always being good about taking them all the time, or maybe being a little bit lax about going to bed on time and getting enough sleep every night, or pushing yourself too hard, or not managing your stress, or whatever the thing is that you are actually choosing not to do, that if you did it, it would help you feel better. That's what I mean about making things a priority. We don't necessarily want to do all of those things that we need to do. We may not want to change our diet. We may not want to go to bed earlier. That would be me. We may not want to take those pills. We may not want to spend the money or the time going to get acupuncture and getting body work and all of the things. But what we do want is all of the benefits that come with feeling better. We want less pain. We want more energy. We want to be able to chase around after our kids or grandkids. We want to be able to have that career and achieve those things in our lives that we want to achieve. We want to run our own businesses or travel with our husbands or whatever those things are. And you only get to do those if you feel better. And you only get to feel better if you do the things like go to bed on time and take your supplements and your medication and change your diet and move your body and eat good food, right? So again, number 4, make feeling better your priority. Along with that, it's really important, and this is number 5, to shift your focus from thinking about your illness, from your focus being on fibromyalgia, to focusing on your healing. So it's not about where you've been, it's about where you're going, right? And I see so many fibromyalgia patients who are so surrounded by fibromyalgia. A lot of people would talk about identifying with fibromyalgia, being a spoonie, these kinds of things that people might talk about, where they are so wrapped up in the fibromyalgia world. And everything that happens is, I can't do that because of my fibromyalgia, or I have to do this because of my fibromyalgia, or whatever those things might be. Now, being in that world, I mean, obviously, I run a fibromyalgia coaching institute. I wrote 2 books on fibromyalgia. I record this podcast, which is all about fibromyalgia. Like, really, my whole life is all about fibromyalgia. But my focus is on getting better from fibromyalgia. My focus is on how I can help people live better lives, to feel better, to be healthier. My focus is not on the illness. My focus is on the healing. And that is sometimes a very difficult mindset shift to make, particularly on your own. You may want to listen to episode 32. Your world revolves around your healing, not your illness. I talk about this a lot more in that episode, so you may want to check that out. But making that shift, it's very much a shift from a place of being a victim or letting things happen to you, right? Like, it's because of my fibromyalgia, versus being in a place of empowerment. I am choosing to do these things because I know it'll help me feel better. I am not leaving the party because of my fibromyalgia and I hurt too much. I'm leaving the party because I know it will help me feel better and I'll have a better day tomorrow. I am choosing to go, I tell myself this every night, you guys, I am choosing to go to bed because I know I'll feel better if I get enough sleep. Seriously, it is my whole life struggle going to bed on time. You know, maybe you are choosing not to eat that chocolate cake because you know if you do, you will feel worse, right? So, and thinking about the fact that not, oh, I can't have that chocolate cake because my body doesn't like it. But instead thinking, I'm going to choose not to have that chocolate cake because I'm going to feel better. Tomorrow will be a better day. And every day that I feel better, it builds upon itself. And eventually someday, maybe I can be in remission like Tami is, right? That's focusing on your healing instead of focusing on your illness. That's number 5, shifting your focus. Along with that is number 6, which is taking ownership of your health, your healing journey, your treatment, and everything that goes with that. So, what does that mean to take ownership of your health and your healing journey? That means things like being your own advocate. It means not sitting in the doctor's office and just accepting what they tell you and letting them be the guy in charge, almost like God, who is like determining the path of your life. Taking charge of your own health means asking questions. It means saying, you know, I really don't want to take that medication. What other alternatives do we have? Is there a natural way to manage this? It could be things like just taking ownership of the fact that maybe you want to eat that chocolate cake and that's okay too. But just taking ownership of it, not letting things just happen to you, but actually stepping up, being involved, making those choices. It also means educating yourself. So that may mean things like, you know, listening to this podcast, reading books, attending classes, going to workshops, learning everything that you can so that you can take charge, right? It's really difficult to take charge of your health and be the person in charge of your journey if you don't know enough to know if you're even making a good decision. So educating yourself is a huge piece of that. That's number 6, taking ownership of your health and your healing journey. Number 7, this is one of my favorite ones and another really difficult one. If you want to get better, you are going to have to learn to listen to your body without any judgment or drama. So what does that mean? It means noticing when your body hurts and noticing what makes your body feel better. It means noticing the things that are draining to you, the things that energize you, what makes you feel worse, what makes you feel better. And most importantly, without any judgment about that, without any drama. So if you notice that, picking your kid up and carrying them around really makes you hurt, that means not adding judgment to that of, oh gosh, I must be a terrible mom. I can't even pick my kid up. I don't even want to pick my kid up, right? Or all the drama of, oh, is my child going to feel unloved because, I didn't hold her enough as a child, or whatever it is, right? So no judgment, no drama, just noticing it as a fact, right? It would be like the difference between noticing, is it sunny outside? Is it raining outside? Is it windy outside? Like, what are the facts of that, right? Like, just like, what are the facts within my body? Without then also adding the drama of, oh gosh, the sun is out. It's going to be so hot and yucky and I'm going to sweat and I'm going to hate it, right? Like taking those thoughts further, that's what we don't want to do. We don't want to make those judgment calls. Just because your body hurts, that doesn't necessarily need to mean anything other than the fact your body hurts, right? So again, listening to your body without judgment, without drama. This is, I think, one of the hardest things for most fibromyalgia patients to get, because it's upsetting when you live in a body that doesn't do what you want it to do, right? It's upsetting to be in a body that hurts all the time, or to be exhausted all the time, or whatever. Just understand that your body is not the enemy. You and your body are on the same side. Your body was made to heal itself, right? You cut yourself, it heals. You break your bone, it heals. You have fibromyalgia. Your body is designed to heal itself, even things like that. So how can you support your body? How can you listen to your body? Give her what she needs so that you can then feel your best. Episode number 2, this is such an important concept that it is episode number 2. Episode number 1 is like just some introduction to like what to expect on this podcast. Episode number 2 is the first real topic that I discuss on this podcast, and it's about the fact that your body is not the enemy. That is how important this concept is to me and when I'm working with my clients. So learn to listen to your body without judgment, without drama. And if you need more help on that, go check out episode number 2. Your body isn't the enemy. That's number 7. Okay. I'm giving you all these numbers. I hope I'm not confusing your fibro brains with all these. Episode 2, number 7, all of that. If so, no worries. Just go to today's show notes. If you're listening on any podcasting app, or if you're on the website, you're already there. But if you're listening on any of the apps out there where you listen to podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, all of that, just go into the show notes for today's episode. You'll be able to click and go right to the web page for this episode. You'll see all 11 of these things that you need spelled out for you, and all of the different episodes that I'm talking about. So don't worry if it's confusing. All right, number 8, are you ready? So number 8 is you have got to practice self-compassion. This kind of goes with number 7, listening to your body without judgment or drama. But this isn't just about your body. This is about your mind as well. It's about the choices that you make in your life, how you spend your time, when you have to tell somebody no, all of those things, and just practicing self-compassion, understanding that you are on a journey and you're not going to do it right from the very beginning. There are going to be things that you're going to be learning. You're going to do things wrong. You're going to try things that don't work. And that's okay. That's totally okay. That's how we learn. That's how we grow. So just be gentle with yourself and try to treat yourself the way that you would treat somebody that you love. So if your very best friend had to cancel on you at the last minute because she was too tired and she needed to save her energy for tomorrow, you wouldn't, give her a hard time about that. You would have compassion for her, right? So do the same thing for yourself. You will not get where you need to go by force, right? Being hard on yourself, if that helped you feel better, you would feel probably pretty good right now, because I bet you are really good at being hard on yourself. So we need to flip that around. We need to practice self-compassion. We need to be non-judgmental. We need to care for our bodies, both in the sense of your body isn't the enemy and, you and your body are on the same side, but also care for it in terms of feeding it good food, giving it good sleep. If it wants a Epsom salt bath, give your body an Epsom salt bath, caring for your body and also caring for your mind. How do you talk to yourself? Do you use kind words when you speak to yourself inside your own head where nobody else can hear it? Or are you judgmental and harsh? We want to practice self-compassion. An episode, if you want more on this, I would recommend episode 9, which is the fine art of self-care. And I talk more about this idea of treating yourself the way that you would treat somebody that you love. All right, number 9, you're going to have to adjust your expectations. The reality is you are in a different body now. Your body can do different things than it did before. There are different things that your body likes and doesn't like. You probably need to adjust your expectations on how much time it's going to take to heal. Maybe you have an expectation that, if you just find the right medication, that will fix everything. Maybe you have the expectation that, I just need to find the right doctor and that will fix everything. Maybe you have the expectation that all I need to do is eat right and exercise and that'll fix everything. All of these expectations are things that you need to adjust. You need to go back to what we were talking about earlier, with that beginner's mind that I mentioned in number 3, going back to being like, okay, I'm going to be open with my expectations here. And maybe this will work, or maybe I'm going to learn something. Or maybe it's going to take longer to heal than I thought, but I'm going to keep going anyway. Maybe my body used to love doing this. Maybe my body used to love working out for an hour a day. Now it just doesn't. That's okay. Just adjusting those expectations. I was talking to a group of business owners about this, and a lot of them have, you might find this in your own work, whether you own a business or you work for someone else. What you used to be able to accomplish, what you used to have energy to be able to do. For those of you who are moms, maybe this is, keeping the house clean. But if you have less energy than you used to and more pain than you used to, you're not going to be able to accomplish the same thing in the same amount of time. It's just not possible. The math doesn't work. So we need to adjust our expectations for many, many things in our lives. This is where that number 1, having an expert to guide you, this is one of the areas that can be super helpful, because with all of our experience, both in our own lives and also with our clients, all the people that we worked with over the years, we can give you some new ideas of what those expectations might be. Some of you may remember the episode that I recorded. I don't know which one it is off the top of my head, but it'll be in the show notes. The one about my favorite energy management tool. One of the things that I mentioned in that podcast episode is the fact that most fibromyalgia patients that I work with, when we start working together, their daily average steps is kind of in the 2000s. And for a lot of you, that was huge in adjusting your expectations for what you need, quote unquote, to be doing right now, right? There's all this stuff out there about walking 10,000 steps a day. And in a fibro body, that may not be anywhere near where you are right now. So adjust your expectations. It can really, really help to talk to somebody who knows the landscape a little bit better for you and can give you some of those guidelines to give you better expectations. Number 10, you are going to need to become a planner. Now, I know there's a bunch of you who are rolling your eyes right now because you like to be spontaneous. And there is a way that you can plan for spontaneity. But really, I think one of the big keys for me in feeling better has been the planning that I've done. Planning ahead of doing something, planning recovery time afterwards, planning how I can do things in a way that keeps my body happy. Lots and lots of planning, checklists, all of this kind of stuff. So becoming a planner is so helpful. And in our next episode, episode 44, I am going to talk about, as I mentioned at the beginning of this episode, I'm going to talk about an exercise I use with my clients to help them plan a little bit better, to really think through the patterns of your life, what your body likes in terms of what time of day is a better thinking time for you, what time of day is better, for physical things. If you're going to clean the garage, when is that a good time? What days of the week are better for you? What is the pattern that your body likes in terms of work and rest? And I have done this a lot with my clients who are also working, particularly if they, have their own businesses, because when you own your own business, you have the luxury of being able to create your own schedule. And there's a lot of things we can do when you work for somebody else too, but you have total control and it's your own business. So it's super fun to be able to do this planning about exactly what you need to keep your body feeling good. So if you want to learn more about becoming a planner, creating the life that you want to live, then come for our next episode, episode 44, and learn more about that Dream Week exercise. But being a planner, planning for, I know I mentioned a second ago that you can plan for spontaneity. So one of the ways that you can do that is plan parts of your week and then leave empty spaces for whatever it is that you want to do. So that could look like on the weekends, we're going to go do something fun. And we're going to, do that either on Saturday or Sunday. We'll have the flexibility there. But whichever day we don't is going to be a rest day. So if we're going to go do something fun on Sunday, then I will rest on Saturday. If we're going to do something fun on Saturday, I'm going to rest on Sunday. So that's just one example. But really planning out how you're going to live your life. I've told this story many times, but when I first was diagnosed and was first starting to work on getting better, one of the things I realized was that I could really only leave the house once a week. So figuring that out and planning for it was one of the key things that enabled me to start healing and start getting better by not using all of my energy from the get-go. So number 10, become a planner. And number 11, our last item on the list, make the best choice in each moment. The reality is you are not going to do everything perfectly all the time. And sometimes you're going to be faced with an array of bad choices, right? Maybe you've got something happening where you just have to spend a lot of extra energy. Maybe you're somewhere where you're hungry and you have to go find something to eat and all of your options are bad. What is the least bad choice, right? What is the best choice out of all the choices you have possible? Sometimes the choice that you make is going to be something that is flare-worthy, which is a term that we use to mean something that that is going to make you feel worse, but it's worth it. So that could be something like grandma baked you a cake Grandma's 90. She doesn't make cakes very often. And you know what? You're going to have a piece anyway, because even though it's not gluten-free and it's full of sugar, it might be the last cake your grandma bakes you, right? That would be a flare-worthy situation. Or maybe, you're going to go attend some event for your kids, or you're going to go on this work trip, or you're going to go on this vacation with your husband, or whatever it is. And that's going to probably make you more tired, probably going to give you a little bit more pain, but it's going to fill your soul, and it's going to make you happy, and it's going to give you something, some other way that's flare-worthy. And that may be the right choice right then, right? You may decide you want to live where you live, even though all the weather patterns make you feel terrible, because it lets you be closer to your family. That's part of number 6, taking ownership of your health, right? That's a choice that you made, and it was the best choice that you could make in that particular moment. Sometimes we need to say no so that we can say yes to other things later. So making the best choice in each moment doesn't mean, ice cream would taste good, so I'm going to eat a pint of ice cream. That's not what that means. What that means is looking at your life, looking at where you want to be, keeping your focus on your health, not your illness, right? So number 5, shifting your focus to your healing. Number 6, taking ownership of your health. Number 7, listening to your body and making the best choice for what is going to help you get to where you want to go. And sometimes that choice happens to be no. Sometimes that choice is yes. Sometimes that choice is later, or making choices within the choice, right? Like, okay, yeah, I will eat grandma's chocolate cake, but just give me a small piece, right? So it's not black and white, all or nothing. You have total control there on what you choose, and just making the best choice in each moment. You guys have heard me talk about this on the podcast when I was first working with my coach and really focusing on my own healing journey. The thing that kept coming to my mind was, if I follow my plan today, if I make the best choice I can today, then tomorrow I'll feel a little bit better. And the next day I'll feel a little bit better. And eventually down the road, all of those little bit betters are going to add up. And you know what they did? Here I am, however many years. Let's see, that would be 13 years after being diagnosed. And I am now in remission. And I didn't do anything wild and crazy. It was a lot of making the best decision in the moment and just having enough of those moments add up. If you want to learn more about this, I would recommend episode 12, which is Say No So That You Can Say Yes. And we talk a lot in that episode about the fact that saying no to one thing is really just saying yes to something else. So it kind of shifts that attitude from an attitude of lack or missing out into an attitude of abundance and what you're getting, right? So because I want this, I'm going to say no to this other thing because I want that more, right? So I'm going to go down my list of 11 things again. And really, this is from my heart to your heart. This is honestly the things that I did to feel better. This is what got me over those 13 years from being diagnosed and having to file for disability to today being able to tell you I'm in remission and I don't have fibromyalgia body pain anymore. I have the energy to do the things that I want to do. And so here's those 11 things again. Number 1, hire an expert to guide you. Number 2, find yourself a good doctor. Number 3, cultivate a beginner's mind. Number 4, make feeling better your priority. Number 5, shift your focus to your healing instead of your illness. Number 6, take ownership of your health and your healing journey. Number 7, listen to your body without judgment or drama. Number 8, practice self-compassion. Number 9, adjust your expectations. Number 10, become a planner. And number 11, make the best choice in each moment. So those are the top 11 things that everybody needs if they're going to feel better. And as I said before, this is just a piece of the puzzle. Of course, there's things that we need to fix that are going wrong in your body. There may be hormonal imbalances. There may be nutritional deficiencies. There may be all kinds of things that we need to work on. There may be viruses or parasite infections or, other conditions that need to be treated. Like, there's just so much. But without these 11 things, it's going to make it really, really hard to get the results that you want, even if you treat all of those things that are going on in your body. Because every day you're going to be waking up and you may not be making the best choice, or you may have unrealistic expectations, or you may be really hard on yourself, or you may be dwelling on your illness, or not making yourself a priority. And you can see where if you flip these around and you look at the reverse, how that just leads you down a road that you don't want to go. So if you're listening to this episode and, since I can't hear you talking back to me, if you're listening to this episode and you're saying, but Tami, then I would be happy to have a conversation with you. You can go to findafibrocoach.com or just go to the podcast show notes page, and there will be a way for you to schedule a consultation. You can do that with me. You can do that with one of my coaches. There's lots of options out there, but we would love to actually have a dialogue with you instead of just this one-sided conversation, and really help you pinpoint where the weak spots are in your plan and how you can change that around, how you can get on the path that you want to be on to feel better. So as I said at the beginning, I did want to tell you a little bit more about the training program. So those of you who just are not interested, feel free to end the episode here. That is it for the 11 things you need to do to feel better. But if you are interested in educating yourself more so that you can take control of your health and your healing journey, and if you want that help in adjusting your expectations, practicing self-compassion, all of those things, that's actually a lot of what I teach in my training program. So the Fibromyalgia Advisor training program that begins next month is a 3-month program, and it combines both those live lectures with me, where I am literally teaching you the same thing that I teach my coaches, same thing I teach my clients, and you are also going to be working one-on-one with a coach. So it includes that one-on-one work with one of my coaches, as well as me teaching live and doing some coaching as part of those live classes. There is a certification at the end. You can become a certified fibromyalgia advisor, obviously completing the course, taking the quizzes. There's some things to do to achieve that certification. But the primary thing that you're going to learn here is all the stuff that the doctors aren't being taught in medical school. I'm going to be teaching you about the medications that are used and the natural alternatives. We're going to be talking about how to manage pain. We're going to be talking about brain fog and energy and better sleep. We're going to be talking about some of the things that people don't really look at when it comes to fibromyalgia. And that's stuff like your thyroid and your adrenals and making sure that those are functioning properly. We're going to talk about nutrition. We're going to talk about exercise. We're going to talk about all kinds of things. And what you will learn in this class will be the foundation for what you can use going forward and into really managing your illness. I'm going to be teaching you what I did to feel better. If you are interested in being part of this class that starts next month, as I said, what's going to be super special about this class is I'm going to be teaching it live. Normally, those lectures are recorded and then we just do a live Q&A class, but I am actually teaching live for this class because I need to update the recordings and I need to make new ones, and I so much prefer talking to real people than just talking to my computer screen. So I would love to have you there in the audience so I can re-record these classes and give you some good new material. If you are interested in being part of that class, know that there is a limited number of spaces. Because I am teaching this live, we will be using Zoom, and I am going to limit that to no more than 12 people in the class. So if you're interested, what you need to do is go to IFC Institute, that's International Fibromyalgia Coaching, ifcinstitute.com. We'll also have the link in the show notes, and there'll be a way for you to apply to be part of that class. There is a deposit to hold your space in the class, and then we will do an interview to make sure that it's a good fit for you. And if it is a good fit, then you'll have the opportunity to enroll in the class. You'll get matched to your coach, all of that kind of good stuff. So again, just go to ifcinstitute.com. You'll see right on the first page there, you'll see an apply button, and you can apply to be part of that class. As I said, it is a 3-month program. There are classes 3 weeks of the month, and then the 4th week you're doing your homework, you're applying the things that you've learned. One of the things that I love about this class is that all of the homework is actually you applying the information you learned to your own life. So for instance, when we learn about sleep, you're going to be analyzing your own sleep routine. When we learn about thyroid, you're going to be looking at your own thyroid labs and seeing if there's something that you see in it. So whether you are wanting to go on to become a coach, or if you are just wanting this information for your own use, then this is a great class. And I would encourage you to come to our Stories of Hope and Healing event on August 29th. You'll hear from people who've gone through this training program and specifically how it has helped them feel better over the course of those 3 months. And if you want to go on and become a coach, we can talk about that too. This would actually be the first step of that. And then there would be an additional class to go on and become a fibromyalgia coach like I am. But we can talk about that more during your admissions interview. So again, just go to today's show notes. It's fibromyalgiapodcast.com/43 for today's episode. You'll see the top 11 things that I just went through with you. You'll see all of those podcast episodes that I just mentioned. I know there was a bunch of them, so we'll have those links out there for you. We'll also have the link where you can get more information on the fibromyalgia training, fibromyalgia advisor training program that begins next month. We'll also have the information on the Stories of Hope and Healing graduation event. I hope you guys will be there for that. And stay tuned for our next episode. As I said a couple of times in today's episode, we are going to be talking about the Dream Week, which is a way for you to plan out what your life wants to look like in order for your body to feel your best. All the patterns of work and rest, and when your body likes to do what kind of work. So we're going to be going through that the next episode. And in future episodes, we're going to be talking about some brain fog tips. We're going to have some interviews with some of the graduates from the Stories of Hope and Healing event, and a bunch of other goodies for you guys. As always, if you have any questions, if there's anything I can help you with, just go to fibromyalgiapodcast.com. You'll see Ask the Coach in the menu, and you can shoot me a message. I would be be happy to answer any questions you have. And of course, if it's a really good question, I might just answer it as our next Ask the Coach. So episode 50 will be our next Ask the Coach episode. And who knows, maybe I'll pick yours. All right, you guys, have a great couple of weeks. I'll see you back here in 2 weeks when we go over the Dream Week. Bye, guys.